AI tools are everywhere right now. Sales teams want scalable practice, enablement teams want measurable coaching, leadership want performance impact. But the real question is simple. Is second nature AI actually worth it in 2026? Hi, my name is Justin from LemCoach, and in this video, we'll be reviewing whether second nature makes sense this year, 2026, based on team size, strength, limitation, etc. So we'll be looking at all those aspects and see if it really it is really functional in 2026 and really makes sense to use. So it's a practical evaluation. We'll be going through every single aspect to see if that really is the case. Second nature AI works best for mid-sized to large sales teams. If you have probably 8+ sales reps, structured onboarding, repeatable outbound or demo motion, it starts to make sense. Why? Because the platform thrives on standardization. It performs well when calls follow consistent structure, objections repeat across reps, messaging frameworks are clearly defined. So if you're in early stage or a startup with 2 or 3 sellers still figuring out positioning and all those bits and pieces in between, it may feel a bit rigid. But if you're scaling and need consistent skill development, that's where it fits best. So the assumption here is if your motion isn't standardized yet, AI roleplay may amplify confusion instead of clarity. So in this case, it needs a team that has a structure that they follow for every single call they make. And based on that, it becomes easier for them to grow, to improve, since everything follows a certain structure for each and every potential client. And for small teams, they always change the script or change the approach with each and every client. So it becomes slightly complicated. So the key strength when it comes to this is that second nature AI is scalable onboarding. New reps can practice before touching live prospects. It's safe in terms of repetition, and reps can fail privately without pipeline risk. So that's one of the advantages. And objective feedback, tone, pacing, keyword use, structure measured consistently. So you get feedback from the AI based on the how you did on the call and how you can improve certain aspects. So manager visibility here is that for for the managers or whoever is in charge can track rep activity and scoring trends so they can have a look at how the team is doing, what's changing, how they're improving. So this tool is actually useful in terms of visibility. It reduces reliance on shadowing and subjective feedback. So you don't necessarily have to follow your sales rep at the back always in terms of their improvements, in terms of practice more calls in order to see how far they've come. So that's how it is. But there's a nuance. The platform provides structure, but it does not replace coaching judgment. So the limitation here for this tool, I would say, is scale scenario rigidity. So in this case, the scenarios aren't customized deeply enough. Reps may optimize for simulations instead of real world situations. So in this case, they would optimize for the simulations that they practice with and not necessarily the real world input. In a sense, for example, let's say they're on a live call with a proper client and not an AI, and the client decides to derail and does something out of script. That's where the problem starts to happen. The sales individual might start to freeze, might start to say something or answer questions that the client or potential client didn't even ask. So the other one is score chasing, like sales reps focus on improving their scores than improving conversational outcomes. Learning becomes gamified instead of strategic. So here they are chasing their scores, they're chasing that 100% score rate, and that's where the issue comes. They don't really work on that improvement, but in a way, they are just chasing that perfect score. The managers will see a perfect score and think, oh, they are improving very well, but it may not always be the case. So that's one of the things that is sort of a limitation in this aspect. So AI feedback is structured and useful, although the feedback depth isn't really that detailed. It lacks contextual business judgment like pricing complexity, political navigation, or account strategy. It just gives feedback based on what you've said, what you can improve. So it doesn't really go into depth and give you feedback based on what's happening within the business, what's happening within the industries, what's happening within the clients in terms of the change. So that's also an issue that can be looked at. And the assumption here isn't that the AI tool is useful, completely useful. However, it has its own pros and cons. So another issue here it would be adoption fatigue. Like if leadership doesn't tie role play session to real coaching conversation, usage drops. So the assumption is that second nature AI or installing AI equals better reps doesn't really hold. So tools don't drive behavior, systems do. And with that being said, the financial side of this whole role play is not inexpensive. So the ROI, like the return on investments, depends on how many sales reps are using it, how often the sessions run, whether the feedback is reinforced, whether the onboarding time decreases. So in that case, it takes all that into aspects and to see like it would be pointless paying for a tool and then all of a sudden the sales reps aren't improving, but the scores are increasing, hitting 100, which means obviously they're chasing the scores and not the real life improvement. So, in a way, is this tool useful in 2026? Yes, in medium-sized teams and large teams, but not necessarily in small teams. So that's another aspect that should be looked at. And second nature AI is really useful if you have a structured sales motion, your onboarding is at a certain scale, you need consistent practice environment, managers lacked bandwidth for repetitive simulation, and it's not really useful when you are still messaging, like your messaging is still evolving, you are making consistent improvement on that, you rely heavily on complex enterprise nuances, you don't have reinforcement quotient loop. So is it really useful? Well, it depends on the size of the team, depends on how useful it is for your team. It depends on the ROI, return on investment, for the team that you have or the enterprises that's using it. And on contrary, you can always have a look at LemCoach, which is the tool that we use ourselves. So LemCoach is a coaching tool as well. You do live coaching sessions. As you can see, this is the dashboard, and you okay, got it. So you can have your academy where you learn everything about sales calls and how to improve certain aspects. Let's have a look at that. As you can see here, your first contact, building bridges, value foundation, objection mountain, discovery depth, closers, citadel. So you can improve different aspects, and as you continue training with this tool, you know that certain aspects in your sales team, certain criteria or certain features that you'd want to see your sales team or sales rep improve on, they are definitely improving on that. So if you want to play around with this tool, have a look at more features. You can always do that at your own leisure. There are very different features that you can always have a look at, and it gives you feedback on your sales coaching practice. So that's another thing that you always can have a look at. And you can get your easy mode, medium mode, and hard mode based on the level at which your sales representative is on. So if you want to play around with these tools, have a look at features that we haven't really covered, you can always catch the links in the description below. And that's it from me. I will catch you on the next video.